Here at Content at Scale, we are behind the production of over 50 million words per month. You heard that right. Our users are producing over 50 million words per month. That's a crap ton of content. And one of our guiding principles at Content at Scale is to not just help you create content with AI, but to empower you to create your best content. Content that reflects the values and the heart of who you are. Whether that's a company publishing blog content, a marketer, growing your authority through your website, or building high traffic websites through content. One of my main focuses as the president at Content at Scale was a model and a framework for helping you develop your best content straight out of AI. Literally, that's what my shirt says. Because the worst thing in the world is to actually lose your own personal experience if you were to over-rely on AI to create all of your content. And that's where our AIO model, which stands for Artificial Intelligence Optimization, and my C.R.A.F.T framework comes into play. Our goal is to give you these keys to create truly amazing content with AI, but still blend in your own personal experience and knowledge as you create this content. We think the SEO content writer's days are gone. We think it's now going to be the AIO writer with talented, gifted writers actually in the driver's seat, optimizing that AI written content, making it better, making it personalized, adding in human touch. Because at Content at Scale, we don't believe that that's gone. We believe that the process of creating content has dramatically shifted. And we're seeing it firsthand with over 50 million words produced per month for users. This video is a full tutorial from our head of content and my own personal writer who I've been working with for 8 years, Alyssa. She is a writer to her core, and you're going to really enjoy this tutorial because she speaks from that place of actually being the AIO writer and working on content to optimize it and really make that AI content shine so it's personalized. In December of 2022, when Google launched that extra E in their acronym EAT, they focused on experience. This is a way to outsmart all the robotic, average, trashy sounding content that's about to hit, like a flood, Google's search engine. Because hundreds of millions of marketers now have their hands on ChatGPT. And while that's not a bad thing, skipping the process of adding in your personal experience should not be happening. And that's where AIO and C.R.A.F.T comes into play. I built C.R.A.F.T to give you clarity on the process of what AIO actually is, optimizing AI written content. C.R.A.F.T stands for cutting the fluff. First, you're going to remove all the unnecessary words. R stands for reviewing, optimizing the content so the SEO parts shine. And you have that natural keyword optimization. A stands for adding. You're going to add images, GIFs, visuals, and bring your content to life. F stands for fact checking, which is critical to do to double check the accuracy of the AI writer, which you got to do whether a human wrote it or an AI wrote it. Lastly, you're going to trust build and add personal experience, touch, and tone. You can also add CTAs back to your story, something you want to sell, maybe a demo or a book a calling. But without further ado, I want to let you get straight into the tutorial from Alyssa. This goes very deep into the C.R.A.F.T framework and the AIO writing process. It's also a part of our certification course in Content at Scale inside the Scalers community, which, by the way, you get free full access to when you join on any subscription level. To learn more, be sure to check out contentatScale.ai. Enjoy this C.R.A.F.T writing tutorial. Be sure to share it with your writers and other members on your team that need to learn this skill. It is an art and a science, and it's a delight to be able to share this with you. AI will shift everything as we know it in work, especially in what we do with our online businesses and content and marketing. So let's get into it.
Hi, I'm Alyssa, the head of content for Content at Scale. I'm going to show you how to use our C.R.A.F.T framework to edit and polish a blog created with our tool so it's ready to publish. Hopefully this will help you understand how to use a framework and a repeatable process to edit these AI drafts from start to finish. And the goal of using C.R.A.F.T is to make sure your AI content doesn't read like a bot wrote it. Instead, after moving through this framework, your content should look like the best your business is capable of. Because AI cannot create great content by itself. It needs your human touch to take it from just okay to amazing and profitable, as in it actually will help grow your business. That said, the content coming out of Content at Scale 2.0 is better than ever. It has never needed less editing, which is incredible. It saves you so much time. But that means you just have a huge opportunity to make each piece of content beyond amazing. So let's get into it. So as you may know, craft involves 5 steps, and each step correlates to a letter. And the first one is C, cut the fluff, R, review, edit, and optimize, A, add images, visuals, or media, F, fact check, and T, trust build with personal story, tone, and links. It's important to remember that you can hit these steps in any order you want. So for instance, in my personal editing workflow, I actually start with R, review, edit, and optimize, and then I move to cut the fluff, and then I jump over to fact checking, and then I will trust build with personal story, tone, and links, and then finally I will hit the middle step, A, add images, visuals, or media. So as long as you cover each part of this framework, as long as you're hitting all of these steps, it doesn't matter what order you do them in. You can do them in the C.R.A.F.T order. You can go anywhere you want. At the end, after you've hit all of them, you will produce a publish-worthy blog. I promise you. So let's move on to the first part of the craft framework, which is C, cut the fluff. So to understand how to cut the fluff, you need to know what fluff is in content, what it looks like, and how to get rid of it. So fluff refers to unnecessary words or phrases in your content that add nothing to your overall message. They're just filler. They don't help get across your meaning. They don't emphasize what you're talking about. They just add extra words and nothing more. So in front of you, you'll see a really long list of words. This is a huge list of all of the words that are usually filler and you can usually get rid of when you find them in content. These words in bold are going to be the filler. For instance, absolutely essential. If you get rid of absolutely and just say essential, your sentence will be much stronger because you're not padding it out with superfluous words. So this is a really good cheat sheet to keep next to you when you are cutting the fluff in content, especially if you're not really used to doing that. Having this to refer to, and then eventually this will be second nature and you'll be able to spot these so easily and you won't need this anymore. So let me show you an example of fluffy writing in Content at Scale. You'll see this highlighted paragraph. This is a great example of very fluffy writing because when we read it, a key detail is that you will run out of breath reading these sentences. That's a great indicator that they're full of fluff. So it reads, while it's true that short form writing may be more efficiently handled by an AI program than a human writer, this doesn't necessarily mean that chatbots are going to replace humans altogether. For one thing, these programs still require a certain level of input from humans in order to work properly. Plus, there are writing tasks that bots simply cannot do, like adding creative and emotional elements to a piece of content. This is definitely too long, too wordy, and we can cut this down quite a bit, as you'll see. And I don't know if you noticed, but the fluff in here makes this so hard to read, way harder to read than it needs to be. It also makes it bloated, and it also makes it just boring. I don't know if your eyes glazed over when I was reading this paragraph, but I was getting bored reading it out loud, and that's not something you want. Your readers should never be bored when they're reading your content. Otherwise, that's a great opportunity for them to leave. Oh my gosh, I'm bored reading this. There's too many words. Where's the point? Where's the answer to my question? I'm clicking the X. I'm leaving. Getting rid of the fluff also will help your reader stay on the page because they'll stay engaged if your sentences aren't bogged down in fluff. Fluff honestly saps the engagement factor from any blog, so removing it is vital. So let's talk about how to cut the fluff. We're going to start with this paragraph by looking for the filler words that are bogging it down. So one of the things I like to do is to look for the word that, because that is a notorious filler word. It's used so much in places where it's not needed. So for instance, this phrase at the end of the sentence, this doesn't necessarily mean that chatbots are going to replace humans altogether. What if we removed that from this phrase in the sentence? This doesn't necessarily mean chatbots are going to replace humans altogether. It reads a lot smoother, and it means exactly the same thing. We're just getting rid of a word we don't need. So look for that inserted where it doesn't need to be. Look for simpler ways to phrase what you're trying to say. So for instance, I can see this little part of the sentence, chatbots are going to replace. Instead, I think I can get rid of "are going to" and say chatbots will. This doesn't necessarily mean chatbots will replace humans altogether. It means the exact same thing, but we're just saying it more simply. And then I automatically see another issue in this sentence. This is written in passive voice. So a hallmark of passive voice is when you have this type of phrase. While it's true that short form writing may be more efficiently handled by an AI program than a human writer, the subject of the sentence is dangling at the end of this phrase, and we want to take this, pull it out, and put it at the beginning. So let me edit this sentence to show you how it looks like in active voice. So I pulled the subject of this sentence out and put it in front of the verb. So the subject is AI program, the verb is handle. So I just pulled out the subject, put it at the beginning of the sentence. So it says, while it's true that an AI program can handle short form writing more efficiently, so that's a lot cleaner than what it was before. It's also shorter and it's also simpler. And then I see another area I can edit in this sentence. This word is not adding anything to the sentence, so I can delete it. And the meaning stays the same. This doesn't mean chatbots will replace humans altogether. And I see another fluffy word that I can get rid of. I don't need that. So now this says, this doesn't mean chatbots will replace humans. It means exactly the same thing as it did when it was fluffy, but it's just so much simpler and cleaner. And that's the crux of cutting the fluff, is just cleaning up the sentences so they're easier to read. And I think I can continue cutting fluff. I see some fluffy sentence construction here. And a flag, another flag you can look out for is whenever you have a sentence starting with there, such as there is, there are. This can be worded differently, so it's simpler and we're not using this fluffy beginning. There are writing tasks that bots simply cannot do. Instead, I think I would say, plus, bots simply cannot do some writing tasks. And again, that takes the subject, bots, pulls it to the front of the sentence, and then the verb should follow, and that makes it simpler and clearer. So I'll do that really quickly. Okay, so that's edited. So it's simple, it's cleaner, it's easier to read. And as I reread this sentence, I'm seeing more fluff I can get rid of. In this second sentence, it says, for one thing, these programs still require a certain level of input from humans in order to work properly. So a couple of fluffy words I can remove. These programs still require. I'm going to get rid of the word still. these programs require a certain level of input from humans in order to work properly. Another fluffy phrase is in order to. This can be cut down to simply to. Anytime you see in order to, you can delete it and replace it with to, and it will mean the exact same thing. So now the sentence reads, for one thing, these programs require a certain level of input from humans to work properly. And that's a lot cleaner and a lot easier to read. So that's cutting the fluff. And next we're going to move on to the R in C.R.A.F.T, which is review, edit, and optimize. So the next step in the C.R.A.F.T framework is R, review, edit, and optimize. And this just means you are reviewing your draft as a whole and making sure all the right information is included. You want to make sure your headers are all there, all the sections you want. You make sure they're ordered the way you want them ordered. You make sure the structure is set correctly. For instance, you have the right H2s, you have H3s underneath H2s. And you also want to look at this from a content point of view. What information are we talking about? What are we including? Is anything missing? And I rely on my knowledge of the subject to guide me here, but if you're unsure, check Google. I would just Google your keyword. For us, that's AIO writing. Honestly, that's not something that will be in Google a lot because that's a term we coined. So this is really relying on my knowledge. For you, you could probably check Google for your keyword to see what the top articles look like. Content at Scale does that for you, but sometimes it's worthwhile to take a second look at Google yourself just to make sure you're double checking, making sure Content at Scale didn't miss anything. For this draft in particular, I'm noticing that the focus of these first few headers is slightly off from where I would like it to be. For instance, this is focusing on ChatGPT a little too much. Instead, I would like this to be more general, and I would like this to be more about how AI changed the way we create content. ChatGPT is a part of that, but it's not the whole story. So I would change this to say AI. I would still include these parts about ChatGPT, but it would be less of the focus and more of just like a detail. So I will edit those to make sure it's not too ChatGPT focused, and then I would go into the content and I would shift that focus back to just AI in general, how AI has changed the game. And then along with that, I think I would, this is not a header, I think I will turn this into a H3 underneath this H2, how AI changed the way we create content. What is ChatGPT can be an H3 that supports this point. And then up here, I would maybe switch this to an H3 as well, and this one as well, because all of these sections are supporting this main H2. They're adding additional information underneath this umbrella, how AI changed the way we create content. This is all additional information. So these are H3s. These are not new points. They're supporting points. So, and then if I continue, the rest of these are looking good. So I don't think I'm going to mess with the structure or the headings anymore. So now that I have changed the structure, I can delete this old table of contents and insert a new one that actually reflects the changes I just made. So to insert a table of contents, you're going to go up here to all of your editing options. You're going to go to this plus sign where it says more rich, and then you're going to go to this little icon. It'll say insert table of contents when you hover over it, and then you just click it and the new table of contents will insert. And you'll see that the changes I made to these headings, I changed the hierarchy, and that's reflected now. Now we have these H3s underneath this H2, and the updated language, I changed ChatGPT to AI. That's now included here. So if you're including tables of contents inside your blogs, make sure they're up to date after you edit your headers, edit your sections, and regenerate your table of contents so it's accurate. And then once that's complete, we can move on to reviewing the draft for SEO and optimization. And for that, we want to use Content at Scale's tools. And there's a lot of great features here, and I think they're better than ever after the 2.0 update. For instance, now we have this optimization score, and it shows you how optimized your content is, and it even has this little gauge. So if you're in the orange or the red, you know you have some work to do. But if you're in the yellow or the green, you're much closer to having a really nicely optimized article for your main keyword. So as you can see, my score is 34. I've got some work to do. The score that I would say you want to aim for is 80 or above. That will get you in the green. However, sometimes the keyword is a little more difficult to work with. The longer keywords are harder to work into the content word for word. They're harder to work in without slightly editing them to say something different. So you're not going to have an exact match of the keyword when it's long and complicated throughout your content. So in that case, the optimization score can be lower and you're still fine because you have variations of your keyword in the content. It just won't record exact match instances. So in this piece, the optimization score is 61 out of 100. It's in the yellow. So we can do a little more to get it into the green, to get it higher. And the first thing you want to do is come down to your keywords and entities list. And these are the keywords you can optimize for in the blog, including your main keyword, which is always going to be this first little rectangle right here at the top left. And then the rest of these keywords are related terms and synonyms that Content at Scale pulled from analyzing the top of Google. And if you optimize for these as well, then your blog will be more optimized overall. So I like to first start with the main keyword and make sure that I'm turning this first box green. And that tells me that I've used the keyword enough times. And as you can see, inside this box, we have a count of how many times the keyword appears in the blog. It's appearing 9 times, and Content at Scale recommends that I include it 13 times. So this will keep track of the number of times you've used your main keyword, so you don't have to search for the word, count it yourself. You can just look at this, the keywords and entity section, go to this first box, and you can see your count right here. And then you can check to make sure you've added it enough times and turn this box green. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to add in this keyword to turn this box green. And to help me figure out what I need to do to turn this box green, I'm going to go over here to this little side panel of additional options and tools. I'm going to hit checklist, and this is my on-page SEO checklist. This tells me things I need to do to optimize my blog further, and it will show me what I haven't done with an X, and it'll show me a green check mark for something that I have done and I've hit and is good to go. So I can see that right off the bat, my title is too long. My meta is either too long or too short. My first paragraph is missing the primary keyword. It's missing in the first 4 paragraphs. It's missing in the intro. It's not included after the last subheading. I ignore the click to tweet one. And then we have some formatting issues it points out to me, which we can address all of these things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my title and meta to see where the issues are. So you go back to optimization, and I can go ahead and edit my title. So it's too long, so I'm just going to remove the 2023 and save it. Check my checklist. Title is optimal length. Got it. Okay, so now I'm going to check my meta. And I think this meta is too long. So I'm going to edit this down. I'm going to get rid of this last phrase at the end. Save it. Look at my checklist. Okay, meta is optimal length. So now I see my first paragraph does not include the primary keyword. So my keyword is blogging tools. So I'm going to go to the first paragraph. So actually my primary keyword is in the second paragraph. So I think that's fine. So I'm not going to add it to this first one. It's in the second one. I think that's sufficient. So I'm going to skip back to my checklist. And it wants me to include the primary keyword twice in the first 4 paragraphs. So I can add it one more time. I'm going to add it to this. This is a super simple keyword to add, by the way. It's only 2 words, so it's very, very easy to just insert it. So I'll add it right there. And I will go back. That's a green check mark now. And now it says we need the primary keyword after the last subheading. So that means we need it in the conclusion. So here's the conclusion. And I can add in the keyword really easily right here. So I can go back to my checklist. I've got a CTA at the bottom, so it's not counting the keyword in my conclusion. So I'm going to go ahead and ignore that because it is in the conclusion. I just have a CTA paragraph afterward. So I think that should be fine. And then we can address these formatting issues. Our paragraphs are too long and we do not have periods at the end of long list items. So let's check our paragraphs. We want to make sure all of the content is formatted for readability. So we're not including walls of text. We're not including chunky paragraphs. So this is one thought. Images are a great way to make your posts more visually appealing and engaging. And this is another thought. Image editing software, such as Adobe Photoshop or GIMP. These are 2 separate thoughts, so it makes perfect sense for me to split those up. And then I will continue to do that, going down. Okay, here's another thought we can split up. We talk about how organizational tools are important. They will help keep track of tasks. And then we move on to talking about popular organizational tools. So this can be a new paragraph. This is a new thought. And we'll keep going. So here's another example. Writing blog posts, the most tedious part. If you're just starting, you won't mind doing all the research. But when you want to start to scale, that's a new thought, new paragraph. And I'm just going to keep doing that all the way down to make sure this is readable and we have enough white space and differentiation between thoughts. Okay, so I broke up paragraphs and now I have a green check mark next to paragraphs or 3 sentences or less. And then we can move on to periods at the end of long list items. So I think it's referring to this list in the intro. So I'm just going to go ahead and add periods to the end of these list items. That's a good formatting rule to follow. Whenever you have a bulleted list, you always want your items to have a period at the end. And I think, no, not yet. So there's another area we need to fix. Periods. Oh, here we go. These are missing periods. So let's add them in. Okay, so now we've got a green check mark next to this SEO item. And so let's check our SEO score. It's only at 61. Let's try to insert the keyword a few more times. We've only used it 11 out of 13 times, so let's add it 2 more times. A great place to add the keyword is in the conclusion heading. So I'm going to do that really quick. I'll come back. So I edited this heading and I've included the keyword. And our SEO score is still 61. So let's add the keyword one more time. Let's see if there are any other headings we can add it to. Okay, so I think actually we could add the keyword to all of these H2s because right now these are very vague. We want readers to know that they're going to find domain name and hosting blogging tools, content creation blogging tools, design and layout blogging tools. So I'm going to go ahead and add the keyword to all of those places. Okay, so I went ahead and added more instances of related keywords to the blog post. I also made sure the main keyword was included enough times, and now my score is in the green. It's at 75, which is exactly where I want it to be. 75 is a good score. As long as you're in the green, I think you're okay. So I would say any score 70 to 80 is awesome. 80 to 100 is exceptional. So I think those are the ranges to shoot for when you are optimizing your blog post. And as you can see, when I look at my checklist, every single point is green except for the click to tweet, which I have opted not to add. And so that is reviewing, editing, and optimizing your blog. That is the second step in C.R.A.F.T. And next, we will move on to A, adding images, visuals, and media. The next part of the C.R.A.F.T framework we will be going over is A, add images, visuals, and media. This step is all about looking for opportunities where you can add visuals and media to break up your text. That's just basically a readability thing. If your blog is nothing but text, that will lower your engagement on that post. People are generally daunted when they see just a big, long stretch of text with nothing to break up the monotony. Images really capture the human brain in a way that text does not. And adding images to your posts, adding visuals, embedding videos, embedding podcasts, adding GIFs, these are all ways to make sure you're upping your engagement, to make sure you're drawing the eye, and you're giving your readers a break between reading text. And I think most importantly, you are adding additional meaning and context to your blog if you use the right visuals. A visual can speak 1,000 words, and it can help explain what you're talking about, maybe even better than your explanation. So having a good visual is priceless. What visuals are we looking for? What would make your content better? Often a good chart or a graph that accompanies a statistic is a great way to do this. When you look up statistics, especially if you're finding the original source for that statistic. Let's say some company did a study and they published a report and it includes charts and graphs, like maybe bar graphs or line graphs. Those are excellent things to add to your content because they help give more meaning to the numbers you're showing, to the statistics you're adding. Charts or graphs are ideal for adding to content. Another way to add relevant images to a blog is to search for your keyword in Google Images. So for instance, this blog is about AI content creation. The title is The AIO Writer Revolution: How AI is Changing the Industry. I could go to Google. One of the points in this blog is we're talking about ChatGPT. If I go to Google and I search for ChatGPT and I look at the image results, you can see there's a lot happening here, and we could use one of these results in the blog. You don't want to use them indiscriminately. For instance, I would not use something like this. This is an image that obviously someone created for a brand. I would avoid that. It has some artistic merit. This was not created for us. This was for a different brand. So I would keep my hands off of that. However, if you see, for instance, somebody has a screenshot of them using ChatGPT, we could maybe pull this screenshot and add a link to the source, which is this blog about how ChatGPT works. We could do that because honestly, anyone could grab this screenshot and use it. We could go do that ourselves. It's very easy to get this image. This was not created. There's no creativity behind this or artistic merit. Someone that didn't spend hours creating this in Photoshop. So we can go and we can use this and link to this blog, and this blog will probably be really glad to have a link going to their website. And so they'll probably be happy that we used their image and included their link. Just be aware of what kind of images you're grabbing, what you're using, and making sure you're linking back to whoever the source is. And another way to add images to a blog is to look for a GIF or a GIF, however you say that. All you have to do is enter any keyword you want and put GIF at the end of it, and it should come up with these little relevant, it even will have some from pop culture, which you can use. So definitely consider that. Or if I had a mood that I wanted to convey in a blog post, let's say I was being sarcastic or I made a joke, I could look up laugh, and there are a million GIFs of people laughing. For instance, this one, if you added this to a blog post after you said something like silly or sarcastic or irrelevant, you could add this and convey an emotion really, really quickly. Or if you had a spit take, you could include this one, and these generally don't require a link to the source. These are usually all on Giphy. You don't really need to link to Giphy. It's fine. You can use these without attribution. It's perfectly fine. So for this blog in particular, I saw an opportunity where I could add some good screenshots. That's another option for adding images to your blog. Screenshots just of like a process, a screen. For instance, this blog talks about the best AI tools for content creation. It talks about ChatGPT, content at scale, Jasper, copy.ai. So I could include screenshots of all of these tools. For instance, I could go into ChatGPT, do a quick prompt with a result, and then take a screenshot of that. And then I could add that to this blog by this example of an AI tool, ChatGPT, add my screenshot. And I could do the same thing for all of these other tools as well. And that will make this a lot richer, a lot more descriptive. It's nice to see what these tools look like at a glance when you're reading about them in a blog versus just a list and descriptions. So that's just one idea of how to add images to this post in particular. So now let's go over how to add an image to your blog post in Content at Scale. So I want to add a screenshot of ChatGPT right after this paragraph. So I will create a space for it, and then I will go up to the toolbar at the top. I will go to this icon, and if I hover over it, it says Insert Image. I'll click it. And now I have two options. I can drag and drop the image I want to upload here from my computer, or I can add a URL from an image somewhere on the web. So I'm going to upload the image. I took a screenshot. I just drag and drop, and then the image inserts, and you can see when the image is selected that you've got a lot of additional options here. You can replace it with another image. You can set the alignment, left, right, center. You can add a caption. You can remove the image. You can add a link to the image. You can decide how you want the image to be displayed. The image style, you can have rounded corners on your images. You can add the alt text. And you can change the image size. So that's how to add an image in Content at Scale. So next we will talk about fact checking your blog post. That's the second to last step in the C.R.A.F.T framework. So next up, we are talking about the F in C.R.A.F.T, which stands for fact-checking. And this is one of the most important parts of the framework because incorrect facts in a blog will damage your credibility as a brand. Good information builds trust, and incorrect or misleading information breaks it. So you want to be known as a source for good information. You want to be trusted as an information source. You have the power to inform and you have the power to mislead. And informing well will build brand trust. So what we want to do to start the fact-checking step of C.R.A.F.T is we want to start by checking the links that Content at Scale added to the blog draft. And this is a brand new feature, which is quite frankly amazing because essentially Content at Scale is not just writing a first draft for you, it's also doing research for you. And that's just mind-blowing to me. But we want to make sure the links that Content at Scale adds to blogs are good, meaning the source is an authority on your topic or the domain that is being linked to has a high authority. For instance, their domain authority score is 50 or above. Let's start by looking at this link Content at Scale added to this blog right here. If you click on it, you've got a bunch of link options that open up, and we want to click the pencil icon to edit the link. And we can see that we've got an OpenAI blog here, and that is good because OpenAI created ChatGPT, so a blog by them would be very authoritative and they're a source of information we can trust. So this link is awesome and we can leave it alone. Once you check all of the links for good information, good source to fall back on, a good source to link to that also adds credibility to your blog by association, we want to move on to checking any facts that maybe don't have a link but could still be inaccurate or could contain information that's incorrect. For instance, here's a fact that we would need to check. OpenAI released ChatGPT back in November 2022. And I know just from knowledge that that's true, but if you didn't know whether or not that was the correct date, you would need to look that up and Google it. So let's do that really quickly. So a quick Google search of when was ChatGPT released shows me that that is a correct fact. It was released November 30th, 2022. So this fact is correct. And that's just an example of stuff you might need to check. If you see this and you're not sure that it's right, just quickly Google it to make sure the correct information is included here. And then another thing we want to check is how Content at Scale has described ChatGPT. We want to make sure all of this is accurate. I can see right now that it is. It's an AI-powered chatbot platform, helps writers create content with a simple prompt, uses natural language processing. It has the ability to come up with topics in seconds. Writers can use it to brainstorm. Overall, this is all looking good. You can definitely rely on your own knowledge of a topic to double check and fact check. In some instances, you will need to Google only when your knowledge is insufficient to determine whether or not the fact is correct. All of this is looking accurate. So the next thing I would want to do is make sure I'm adding in additional sources just to strengthen this blog a little more. Adding in high quality links, adding maybe some statistics. That will just help make sure this blog is really, really strong. We want to show people that we're a good source of information because we do our due diligence. We are sharing good information and we are backing up what we say with additional sources, and that builds credibility. So I think a good opportunity for maybe adding additional statistics would be in this paragraph. This is talking about how AI changed the way we create content, and this references the release of ChatGPT, but I think it would be even stronger if we talked about the general sentiment around how AI is changing content. Like, what do businesses think about AI coming on the scene like this? Because in the past, I would say 6 months, it has really broken into the mainstream, and now we're seeing a lot more adoption of AI, especially in content marketing. So how do businesses and marketers see this change? Is there any survey or report or something that tells us a general opinion? So I'm going to look for a source like that really quickly. So I wanted to know what marketers and businesses think about AI in content. So I Googled AI in content survey, and it actually came up with a lot of really good results of studies and reports I can pull in statistics from and talk about. For instance, this C.R.A.F.T survey is about, does AI write better copy than humans? Most marketers think so. So I think I would want to reference some of these statistics. For instance, most marketers spend the majority of their work week generating content. Where are they leveraging AI or ML software? It looks like email marketing is one of the top. That's very, very interesting. How long did it take your company to implement AI? 44% said 6 months to less than 12 months. So there's a lot of really good statistics in this survey, as well as infographics that would be great to pull in. You do not need to ask for permission to use infographics like this from a brand. Brands create these because they want people to share them and link back to this post in particular, and that's what we're going to do. This is what they want, so we can grab this and just link to them, and we don't have to ask them for permission to use this. So that's what I would do here. For instance, I think this stat in particular is really, really interesting. 82% of marketers agree that content generated by AI is just as good or better than human-generated content. That's crazy. So I think I would pull in this stat in particular, add it in right here. Let's see, AI revolutionized content creation overnight. 82% of marketers say, what do they say specifically? AI generated content is just as good or better than human. And now I can add the link to the C.R.A.F.T survey. So I'm going to copy it from my browser bar, and then I am going to put the link on this text right here, 82% of marketers. And so I could highlight it, and then I need to go up here to the toolbar and hit insert link, and then I can paste the URL. The anchor text is already set because I highlighted it, and then I can hit insert. And so that's how we add more depth and weight to our content. We back up what we say with a good piece of information or a statistic, and then we make sure that statistic is from a really good trusted source. And I know Capterra is a good source because they actually have done a lot of different studies and surveys. They're a reputable company. Another way to tell that the source you're pulling from is high authority, high quality, is to check the DA, or the domain authority score. You can do that with a plugin. For instance, Mozbar is a good browser plugin you can use that will tell you the score. For instance, see, I've got it up in my extensions up here, and if I click on it, I can make the bar pop up, and you can see that the DA is 78, and that's really, really good. This is a great brand to link to. So that's how to fact check your content, but also increase the credibility of your content. Don't just fact check, but also look for areas where you can add more depth and more weight and more authority and credibility to what you're saying. So that's fact checking, and in the next step in the C.R.A.F.T framework, we will talk about T for trust building. The very last step in the C.R.A.F.T framework is the T, which stands for trust building. And you can do that by adding personal story, tone, and links to your content. So it's important as you're editing AI content to make sure to look for places where you can add more credibility to the blog through personal stories, examples, anecdotes, etc. And we already started doing that during the fact-checking step. For instance, I found a place where I could add a link to a study and include a statistic that helps add depth to what we are talking about. In general, that's a good way to build trust because adding good information adds credibility. And if you want to become known as a good source of information, as a trustworthy brand, a trustworthy entity, you need to make sure that your statistics, information, facts are all accurate and true. This right here is just one way that we can build trust. Another way, and an even simpler way to build trust and add a human point of view to AI content, is to add you language. And in writer speak, we call this second person perspective. This just means the content directly addresses the reader, like they're in the room and we're talking to them. So one of the issues with AI content is that it tends to write in third person, which just means instead of talking to the reader, the content talks about the reader. For instance, look at this sentence right here. It says, ChatGPT is an AI-powered chatbot platform that helps writers create content with a simple prompt. This is a true statement, and it's fine. However, the audience of this piece is content creators, is writers. We're talking to people who create content, And so here, referring to them as writers is not direct. We're not talking to them directly, we're talking about them. So adding you language will help make this more human and less formal and more conversational. So the easy edit here would be to replace writers with you. ChatGPT is an AI-powered chatbot platform that helps you create content with a simple prompt. And honestly, ChatGPT isn't just for writers, so adding you here is even more accurate because whoever is reading this is probably using ChatGPT. They're not necessarily a writer. They're either a marketer, a content creator, a brand, a business owner, someone involved in content, but not necessarily a writer. So saying you is both more direct and more accurate because we're not just talking to writers. This is a really simple edit you can do throughout the content. Anytime that the content talks about a group of people or references a general group, like for instance, writers, or if it said businesses, or if it said marketers, you could change that to you, and immediately the content will be more direct and sound more human because humans don't really naturally talk in that formal of a way. We say you, we talk more directly than the AI tends to do. And so editing out those instances where it's talking about a group of people, changing it to you will make it sound more human. So we see that again happening in this sentence. It says, with this feature alone, ChatGPT can save writers countless hours trying out different angles until they hit the sweet spot. Again, we don't have to say writers here. We can say you, we can talk directly to whoever is reading this. And again, in this sentence, we see the same thing. It says, best of all, given that AIs don't need sleep or vacations, marketers can publish content 24/7. Again, we're talking about a group of people when we should be talking to this group of people. So we can switch out marketers for you. And that immediately makes it direct and more human. And speaking directly to your audience is also a trust builder because it shows them that you know them, you understand them, you get their problems, and you are the one to help them. And that's really powerful. So another way to build trust is to add personal stories, personal experiences, and personal opinions to your content because an AI cannot have an opinion about anything. Only humans have the ability to have preferences, to have likes and dislikes, to love something, to hate something. Having an opinion about the topic at hand, the topic you're writing about, the topic of the content, having an opinion and sharing that opinion, especially if it's based on your expertise, is another way to build trust. Because what are we trying to do here? We're not just trying to prove that we're human and that we're deep in our content and not just publishing AI content without discretion. We're proving that we care about our readers and our customers and our potential customers. We care about their problems enough to add more value to what we're publishing. We want them to get that value so that eventually they will convert. And if we just publish this without any of this extra stuff, that kind of proves that we don't care ultimately and that we're looking for the bottom line. When if you put care into the content, that also shows you care and tells your customer you care and nurtures their trust in that way. So where can we add some personal experience or personal touch to this content? Look for places where the topic and your expertise collide. So a good example of adding human experience to AI content is right here. This section is best practices for implementing an AIO model. Now, Content at Scale created the AIO model, showing how a human editor and an AI writing tool can work together to produce a really good blog while saving companies money in the process, because they're spending less on initial content creation and they need less people to do it. So we are experts on the AIO model, and when we talk about it, we should include our personal experiences in the company, talking about how we have used our own model to create content for our own blog. Right here it says incorporating AIO into your content strategy allows you to scale up production while maintaining quality standards. We have done this in our company, and I can talk about that right here. I can add some story about how we have hired one writer, and that one writer has produced at least half of the blogs we have published in the last 4 months, like 50 blogs with one writer alone. That's incredible. And so I could add that story here and talk about how we are a living proof of how AIO allows you to scale up and maintain quality. So as you can see, I added in the story about how incorporating AIO allows you to scale up production while maintaining quality standards. So here's where I added the human experience. I said, we're living proof of this. At Content at Scale, we rely on our own AI technology to produce all the content for our blog. We've published over 100 posts in less than 4 months, and for a quarter of that time, we only had one writer working with our tool. When you are proof of what you're talking about, that's a great opportunity to add in a story. I'm not actually bragging here. I'm just conveying facts. I'm not saying we rely on our own AI technology and we're so amazing for doing this. I'm just stating facts. I'm telling the story without over exaggerating or making this sound salesy. And I think that's super important as well. Share information just to help and provide additional context. And at the same time, this also builds trust in our tool, because we're a living proof that the tool and AIO can have really incredible results and actually produce results, period. So those are some ways to build trust, to add the human element to your content, and to just take it the extra mile so it can actually work harder for you, because the person reading a blog with all of these elements that you've added thanks to C.R.A.F.T will see that, number one, you care about them, you care about giving them value, you care about giving them correct information, you care about their experience with your content, you care that they can easily get the information they need. Just showing you care, I think, is one of the biggest trust builders of all. And high quality, amazing content is some of the biggest proof you care that there is. And so that's the main reason why this framework is really, really important and vital to use when you produce AI content. You need to get in there and make it your own, make it great, make it accurate, and make it high quality and worth your reader's time. And ultimately, that is what is going to bring in results.
Thanks so much for watching this full craft tutorial. For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're always putting out gold just for you to help you learn and evolve as you too build these AIO skills. We have lots of tutorials to pick from, so be sure to check out our channel and immerse yourself in this content. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.